Next up is Derrick Broze, a Mohican from Texas. Derrick, that's not true. Derrick is the founder of the Houston Freethinkers Activist Alliance, the Conscious Resistance Network, and he's a freelance journalist with benswan.com, which I think is awesome. And he's earned it. Hosts the Liberty Beat, the Anti-Media, and he's also doing a lot of writing for Tony Styles. He's a lot of fun, very entertaining. Give it up for Derrick Broze.
Well, guys, thank you for having me. Thanks for that awesome introduction, Mr. Zabi. So today I want to talk about spreading the message of liberty. I think the official title was Spreading Freedom, Stop Preaching to the Choir, but the true title of this is How to Step Out of the Liberty Circuitry. Some of you know that term. If not, you know what I mean by the end of this. So, since 2008 and before then, these ideas of libertarianism, freedom, have been spread by Ron Paul, people before him. They've been helped along by the youth, by the internet, and we found ourselves now at a point in 2014 where libertarianism, the liberty movement, has become its own subculture. We have events like this, we have merchandise, we have celebritarians, and news organizations, things like this. But I wanted to ask you guys, are you content with being just another subculture? Because we shouldn't. We should be content with that. We're continuing to be ignored by the mainstream, the old stream media, and most of mainstream society in general. As Adam said earlier, we're less than 1% of this country and maybe around the world. So we really haven't made the impact that we would like to believe when we're online arguing with each other. Recently, I interviewed a guy named Boyan Slat, a 20-year-old Norwegian genius who's going to change everything we know about this world. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about what he told me and how we can relate this to our methods of achieving freedom and spreading these ideas. So some of you may know the idea of the Pacific Northwest garbage patch. There's these gigantic garbage patches floating through the ocean around the world. Typically, the thought has been it's going to take thousands of years for us to clean this up. Boyan, however, created this new system where instead of going after the trash and chasing it with nets, which has been the typical method, he's actually coming up with a new strategy of putting the nets into the ocean floor and then using the ocean's current itself to bring the trash to it. They're saying that we could see these patches cleaned up within the next 50 to 100 years now, within our lifetime. I mean, this is really amazing to see. So if you think about us, our collective consciousness as that ocean, and imagine what the trash is, the mainstream media is the strongest currently. The mainstream thought is, which is really the statist thought, is the strongest current that most people are drawn to. And we're another subculture, another current out there that's also trying to have an impact. And if we cast our nets out there directly at that current into the mainstream thinking, into the mainstream mind, we can begin to influence them and actually achieve change. Because I find these events to be important, and the Liberty events you may set up at your hometown, we fly across, I flew out here from Houston, we fly across the country and around the world to come see each other, but often it's the same people, it's the same ideas. I don't know how many people here have never heard the word libertarianism, but most likely we're all preaching to the choir. Freedom needs to go mainstream, and we know that good ideas don't require force, but they do require action. And we can be that action. The market will inevitably provide the solution to statism, which is freedom, but we have the choice to either wait and let that process happen, or we can be the agents of change through education and through action. If you follow the Liberty movement online, then you may be familiar with the brutalist humanitarian keyboard wars of 2014, and this debate on what exactly libertarianism means, and if freedom means to just be an asshole and to as much as you want, and whether or not we should try to curtail the message specifically the way that might be appealing to people. I don't think it's necessarily about self-censorship, it's about deciding whether or not this message means enough to you that you want to craft it in an appealing way. We all deal with different people, different backgrounds in our individual communities, whatever cities we come from, and it's up to us to address those people, because me being me and looking like I do, or whatever that means, I can't necessarily speak to a business suit audience and get the same response that somebody else might be able to. Adam can speak to veterans, and they might listen to him more than me, who's waving around an upside-down flag despite having no experience in the military. So we each have little niches that we can work on, and I think it's important to see those and to find ways to communicate with those people. And as much as communication and networking is important, like we do at these events, I think once you have that community established, we shouldn't settle for that either. We don't want to just be a subculture. We don't just want to establish the community and stop there. We need to expand. Obviously, less than 1% of people haven't been able to change most of the minds of Americans. This November, they're going to have their midterm elections and keep voting for Democrats and Republicans, and in 2016, they'll be voting for Rand or Hillary again. So obviously, we haven't reached the masses yet. It's time for us to get out from behind the keyboard. That is, if you take anything, that's it. Get out from behind the keyboard. Go speak to people in your community. The revolution, the evolution, the love-evolution is in the conversations. It's in your day-to-day actions. There's many things that we can do to make this movement grow. In 2009, when I first woke up and started to become aware of the many problems in the world, and I found myself becoming a part of this movement of awakened individuals, I didn't do that so that I could hang out in New York City and have some expensive drinks and bullshit with you guys. I did it to overthrow the government. And namely, the idea of government. So that we can eradicate the very notion that the idea of government is even necessary. We need to get past that. And it's easy to get wrapped up in this celebritarian culture, and if you follow me on Facebook or see me talking in videos and stuff, I like to bash on that a bit because I've had a taste of it myself, and I appreciate every individual that's ever come to me and said, oh, I like your work, or I like that you did this or that, and that makes me feel good. It encourages me to continue to do what I'm doing. But I want to remind everyone here that there's no difference between me or anyone else who spoke on the stage, and any of you sitting there or at home listening or whatever. We're all the same. We're all looking for answers to this. And just because somebody makes a video and it gets a lot of attention and they go on TV, they're no better than you, and they don't have the answers. We all have the answers. It's going to take all of us. We can each do something. We can do radio, journalism, protests. Some of you are still fighting the political arena. We can do something, but the point is to be a living example of whatever truth it is that you believe in. However you believe you're going to spread these ideas. And that leads me to my next point. The way I believe that change will be most effectively achieved is through something that's called agorism or agorism, depending on your accent, where you're from, which literally is anarchy in action. If you're not familiar with agorism, if you haven't heard from many people who espouse these ideas, Samuel Conklin III, look up the New Libertarian Manifesto and you'll find out more about that. But briefly, agorism is revolutionary market anarchism. It's deciding to take your business, your action, outside of the purview of the state. If you use Bitcoin, you should understand this idea already. Using black and gray markets, areas where the state either is afraid to go or says it's illegal, and deciding, you know what, I'm going to go install a garden for somebody, and I'm not going to use a business license. I'm going to go support a local entrepreneur who I know is about these principles and these ideals. It's choosing where you're going to put your focus and removing that focus from within the state. And it involves action. There's 3 A's in agorism. The agora, which is the marketplace, the interaction. Anarchy, which we all know about. Freedom, self-rule. And then action. You can't have agorism without action. And that's why I really harp on it, because, again, it's time to get out from behind the keyboards. We can only do so much there. It's important to be online to spread these ideas, but the world isn't going to change completely. We're not going to reach all those people who don't use social media, who don't use Facebook. But you know where you can reach them? You can reach them out on the streets by going up to them and just having a conversation. If you want to record a video and put it out and inspire others, whatever it is, you just need to go out there and speak to them. And I'm sort of rushing through this because we're short for time, but earlier I mentioned the ocean currents. How would it look if you influence that mainstream, that status current using agorism? I think that we would start to see gun enthusiasts, vloggers, farmers, content creators starting to form networks with a common goal that serves the people rather than the powers that wish they were. We'd be using all the tools that we have necessary outside of the state. We begin cross-pollinating, and these things would continue to flourish. And this is already happening, but again, we have to take action if we want to see the pace pick up. You know, I'm about to turn 30, and I'd like to be in a more free world before I die, or at least my nieces and nephews, give them a more free world. So it's time for us to step up our game is basically my main point. And my last point is, despite everything that I've said and that everyone else has said and will say after this, none of it matters if you're not happy within. And Adam, of course, learned this by getting locked up, which is where I learned this as well. Freedom is within yourself. No matter what knowledge you have of economics, philosophy, government,
theory, all these different things you want to debate. If you're not happy within yourself, then you know, just as I have in the past, that you are not free. How can you know what freedom means to yourself if you don't even know yourself? If you haven't taken the time to self-reflect and to learn who you are, what your fears, doubts, insecurities are, and learn to work on those things. Because it's my belief, the whole idea behind the conscious resistance is that the reason we have statism and this love and worship of government is because there's a whole bunch of us running around with mommy-daddy issues who have to deal with those deeper things. And until we do, we're going to keep crying out for somebody else to take care of us, for somebody else to do the tough work for us. We're not going to rely on ourselves, and we're not going to get past this. We need to escape statism and the failed belief that government is needed, but we have to do this on the individual level, and that happens right here. You talk about localization, the most local you can go is right here, inside your own heart and your own mind, which, for me, just a couple of things that I'd like to offer out there, and take it how you will. I learned a lot through meditation, through daily meditation. I learned a lot through taking in mindfulness and just being aware of my actions and my interactions with people. I am by no means a perfect individual, but I try to be aware of the mistakes that I make and to learn from them, self-reflection. And as we see in the busy world that we're living in, arguing, debating with people for 10 hours on Facebook a day, plus trying to have a job, it can be difficult to stop and to slow down and to examine yourself and to look at the flaws that you have and see the ways that you treat individuals. Recently, it seemed to come up in conversation where individuals recognize that some of these people in the liberty movement, they're just like those other people. They still have these same flaws and these same problems because we're not perfect. No matter what subculture you go to, what other group of people, there's going to be drama, there's going to be different things because we're humans. I don't know if we'll ever be able to eliminate that, but I know that we can eliminate this unnecessary need and thirst for statism. But it's going to have to come from us on an individual level. One of the sort of modes of thinking that I picked up from my time studying Zen Buddhism is the need for wisdom, compassion, and action. And I said this at Anarchy and NYC. We're all wise in the ways of liberty and why statism needs to fail, right? And some of us are starting to get that in order to pull the rug from under statism, we have to do it in a compassionate way. We can't just leave our brothers and sisters behind, whether or not that they love the welfare state. You know, we have to understand that it took us a while to get here. We have to be compassionate toward them. And again, it takes action. But it also takes an awareness of yourself and your interactions with other individuals. And I think if we each, everyone sitting here and everyone else who will see this, decide to take some time in each of our days to do that self-reflection and to keep constantly checking our ego. Your ego can serve a very valuable purpose, but it can also get in the way and make you believe that your celebritarian status is more important than actually achieving freedom. And I think everybody here would agree that our ultimate goal is freedom for everyone, not just for one group of people or one type of person. But in order to help everyone in a collective manner, we have to start by helping ourselves. Thank you guys.
Give it up for Derrick Broze. Give it up for my moonwalk. All right, whatever. All right.
I want to talk for a moment about the ideas of what it means to be a bodhisattva or a bodhisattva. I was first introduced to this idea in 2005, 2006 when I started to get into meditation and Zen Buddhism and started studying Buddhism in general, looking at the therapy